This is the Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Vipul Vasanya. Today's guest is Ruby Fremon. She is an international speaker, impact coach. She's got her own live events all around the US called Amplified Soul. And she's recently started an amazing podcast called Love Punch, which you can go and check out on iTunes. I'll put the link to that in the show notes. Thank you for being here, Ruby. Really appreciate your time. After all the technical difficulties we had prior to this, I'm glad we finally started it. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So I was just watching a few of your videos the other day. And for those who don't know, can you just explain a little bit about what you're doing at the moment and how you actually got to where you are now?
I always feel like that's a fully loaded question, right? Because that's like my whole life story is what brought me to do what I do now. But I'm a life and impact coach. I work with thought leaders, purpose-driven entrepreneurs, and influencers, and I help them break through the glass ceilings that prevent them from getting to where they want to be. Basically, I help people break through their bullshit. But I prefer working with leaders and purpose-driven entrepreneurs because my own personal purpose is really to act as a catalyst for the new generation of thought leaders, because in today's day and age, we need more people to rise up and speak their truth. How this came about was just a combination of my own personal journey, so from pain to power, and realizing that there was so much power in sharing my story, in putting myself out there in a vulnerable way, in being super authentic. And that helped me connect with people on a level that I was never able to connect with, and it helped me see that, you know, this really is my purpose. I'm here to help people, and everything that I've been through has served me with the tools that I need to do so. So eventually I went back to school, became a certified life coach. I've done tons of trainings and workshops, and I continue to grow upon my skills as a coach and speaker and workshop facilitator. And yeah, I absolutely love what I do.
Yeah, I think that's the best place that you can get to, is when you actually love what you do. A lot of people haven't found that yet. But yeah, I love what you said about going from pain to power. It's a catchy little phrase, but it's true. I think that's what everyone strives to do, to go from the pain that they're in now to move towards power and pleasure in their life. But more interestingly, you started the journey not too long ago. It's a few years back. But I remember you saying in one of your videos that, I think it was 2012, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's when you found or discovered the whole concept of self-love. So how did you actually come to that epiphany? Like, what was it that happened for you to actually realize that's what you needed to rediscover in your life?
Yeah, so prior to 2012, I hovered at rock bottom for a long time. I was hovering there for about a decade, and bouncing in and out of rock bottom a lot. And in 2012, I hit another rock bottom, and it was the ending of a relationship, but I was also in the midst of a dealing with a drug addiction that I didn't know I had, so I wasn't even aware that I had a problem at that point in time. And I was also working in the nightlife industry, which, for people who have addictive personalities, isn't the healthiest industry to work in. So when I found myself in that space, it felt like I was listening to a broken record. Like, inside my head, I felt like I was listening to a broken record, because I kept hearing myself saying, why me? Why me? Why do these things keep happening to me? And I realized, like, wow, like I always end up here, like, at rock bottom, and I always end up here at rock bottom telling myself these same things. So there's something going on here. And it led me to the epiphany of like, wow, maybe it's not them. Maybe it's me, because the common denominator in all of these things that had happened was me. So that really forced me to look inwards with the choices that I was making, because really it was an accumulation of my choices that led me to those rock bottom moments. And so when that relationship ended, which was a manipulative and verbally abusive, emotionally abusive relationship, I was left kind of on my own again, and realizing for the first time in my life I have power. Like, I have power, and I need to learn how to use it. Like, why am I making these choices when there's obviously better choices out there for me to make? And that's what led me to the concept of self-love. Like, maybe I don't like myself enough to make the right choices. Maybe I don't feel worthy to make the right choices, which is why I would always pick the wrong men, which is why I would pick drugs and alcohol over seeking help. So I started on this journey to self-love with whatever means I had, like just taking time to take care of me, working out regularly, eating well, partying less, and doing yoga, and just trying to piece my life back together again, but also piece it together in a way that I had never experienced it before, because up until this point in time, I really hadn't experienced like a strong sense of confidence or self-love or anything. So I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was putting together. I was just following the feeling of like feeling good and feeling better. And I stuck with that, and that's what really led me to where I am today.
Yeah. No, it's an amazing story, and I think it's following that feeling. The last thing you said about following the feeling to the journey in terms of what feels good, that is the most important thing. But I think a lot of people fail to do that because they're too scared, because they don't know what's going to be next, or they can't see the steps clearly. It's, as you said, it's a feeling. There's no clear steps there. So I think that's the most difficult thing for people, is to wrap their head around that. So I mean, in terms of like when you started YouTube for the first time, I saw a big difference, because I've seen your Instagram live recently and the daily rants that you do, but the first YouTube video that you did, your character and personality was completely different, and I think it was a lot more it was a lot more at bay, if you know what I mean. Like, I think you were a lot, I don't want to say calmer, but I just think you were probably a little bit worried in terms of, how are people going to see me. And now you can just see, like, when I watch your Instagram live, or if anyone wants to see your story, that there is no bullshit. Like, it's just you turn the camera on, it's just like you 100%. So what's the journey been like from going from that a few years ago in your first video to where you are like today, and the confidence that you have today for people that are listening?
Yeah, I mean, it's what's interesting is that even though I am where I am today, like, it's still a constant trajectory of growth. I'm still growing all the time. And what you saw in the first video was me living in my previous programming, right? So we all have programming that we adopt or we inherit through the ways in which we were raised. And I was raised in what is a more conservative culture, and we're not taught to really speak our feelings, because when we speak our feelings, it's not okay. We're just supposed to slap a smile on our face and make sure everyone in our society feels like we're okay. So that's how I was raised. So a lot of what I was feeling, and the reason why I lived at rock bottom a lot, was because I was repressing my emotions. I had depression, I still deal with it, depression and anxiety, PTSD, all these things that I was always struggling with. But at the very root of it, it's always like this constant internal struggle of like, who am I? And up until that point, that first video that you're talking about, I mean, that was like 33 years of my life living like I was someone else, or like not really quite sure of who I was. So what has happened since then is because I'm in this work and doing this work for other people, I myself am also dedicated to the work. So I've just been constantly shedding that prior programming and cultivating and creating like a new type of program that I run on, and that is the essence of who I truly am. But it's been a process of like getting to know who I am, getting to know who I am sober. That was huge for me. I hadn't known myself sober since I was 23 years old. Like 23 is when my addiction actually started. So that's a long time to not understand how to handle emotions. So it's just been a process of me like unleashing Ruby, really. Like, simply put, it's me unleashing Ruby, and now I feel so comfortable with who I am. I'm super confident in what I have to say and what I'm here to do. I'm clear on what it is that I'm here to do, and I'm just like, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, go. Yeah, go.
I don't give an F. I don't give a fuck what people think. I get that I'm not the coach for everyone. And not everyone is meant to coach with me. My events aren't for everyone. And not everyone is meant to be at those events. There's thousands and thousands of coaches out there, but we all need to speak our own language in order to fulfill our unique purpose. Because when we do that, we attract the people who are meant to follow us. We attract the people who are meant to work with us. So it's so important to just find your jam. And that's what I've done.
Yeah. No, definitely, because I've recently realized that as well. Like, rather than me trying to go out and find people that I get on with or people that I want to be in my community, you need to find yourself first, find out who you are, what your purpose is, what your message is, and then the right people will start coming to you. And that's a massive thing, because not a lot of people spend time trying to think about that question. It's a big question. Who am I? I'm me. A lot of people just, be happy to just, brush past the question and accept that. And they'll go back to drinking or partying or throwing themselves into work or whatever it may be. But one day it will catch up to you. And for me, I'm not like 40 or 50, but a lot of people that I've seen, when they reach that age, that's when midlife crisis comes in. That's what my theory is. It's like, if you haven't resolved who you are, that is what midlife crisis is. It's not, I realize I hate my job and I need to earn more money, or I'm with the wrong partner. It's not that. You haven't figured out who you are, so you don't feel fulfilled. When you figure out who you are, the sense of direction and purpose just fulfills you, and everything else falls into place. So it's important to resolve that with yourself first, no matter how long it takes, and everything else will follow. So that brings me nicely onto your events that you hold now, like Amplified Soul. So first of all, everything that you've done for yourself, how do you help others do it? Or what, for those who don't know, what are your events about and how are you helping people through them?
Yeah, so Amplified Soul Live is a 3-day event that has also gone through its own evolution. So the event is really targeted for leaders, heart-centered entrepreneurs, influencers, creatives, artists, anyone who really wants to become a true thought leader in their industry and create a positive impact. That's who the event is for. And it's all about just exactly what we just spoke about, finding the essence of who you are and unleashing that. Because what's happening now with the rise of social media is everyone is out there doing videos. No one's doing anything different. There's very few people who are doing things differently. A lot of people are saying the same shit in 100 different ways, and everyone's just speaking on top of each other, and it's turning into noise.
Yeah.
And then what happens is people just scroll and they don't pay attention. They're not lit up or excited about anything. They don't feel an attachment or meaning to anything, which is why more thought leaders need to rise up. And thought leaders are the ones who speak and own their true opinions and create real influence, right? That leads to an impact. So I help people do that in those 3 days, by giving them the concepts that they need in order to become a thought leader, and then helping them break through what I call the bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's your fears, your beliefs, your inner critic, everything that goes on here that stops you from letting this out. So we break through all of that to help you really just start to embody the not give a fuck mentality that's going to help you rise up as a thought leader. That's what Amplified Soul Live is all about.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I think I need to come to one of them. But yeah. But I mean, for people that are listening, just give a little bit of an insight of how do you actually do that? Just maybe an example of one of your previous clients or one of your most recent events that you've done. Is there any examples that come to mind in terms of someone that stands out to you that really broke through?
I have a lot of clients that have broken through. I had this at the event. there was a lot of people at the event in 2017 that didn't even understand what their purpose was. Like, the room had a very high number of people that didn't understand what their purpose was. So this was very different. And, you know, there's a purpose is like this hot topic, right? Everyone's talking about purpose. Find your purpose. Pursue your purpose. But what about for those people who don't know what that is? And so I spent a good amount of time on day one really helping them uncover that, but not in a way that you would think. It was more so, well, like, let's just shelf your purpose for a second, and let's, like, talk about you. Let's talk about what comes up for you when you hear the word purpose. What comes up for you when you're on the verge of going after something that you want, but you retract. You know, what comes up for you? And we started looking at their fears. We started looking at their belief systems. We started looking at their values. Like, what is it that you value in life? And then really distinguishing what was theirs versus, like, what is shit that they just adopted. Because if you are carrying around other people's values, aka your parents or teachers or people that you grew up with, if you're carrying around other people's belief systems, there is no way in hell that you're going to even have the ability to see or feel into what your purpose is. So we spent, like, the whole first day really unloading the bullshit, unloading their fears, unloading their limiting beliefs, unloading their programming, literally, like, writing it out on pieces of paper and ripping it up and having them go through this process of, like, just recognizing everything that they're carrying in their conscious and unconscious minds. Because once you have that awareness, then what happens is you start to gain the clarity, because all of these things are like, you know, your fears and your beliefs, it's all like these layers that are preventing you from seeing things clearly. So once you start to conquer those things, then you have the ability to see clear. Then you have the ability to take action and work through your fears. So, I mean, that's really like what we did on day one at the 2017 event, and that resulted in, you know, people going full time in their purpose-driven endeavors, like the day after the event. People switching their careers. It was really, really incredible. See people finishing their books and becoming bestsellers. I had just had one girl who attended. She became a best-selling author this week. Wow. So there's a lot of freedom that comes from gaining control of your mind, and a lot of people don't understand that you can do that. Yeah. So I'm here to teach you how.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that sounds amazing, and it sounds like something that all of your clients are going to benefit from for the long term, because that when you find out what your purpose is, that is going to carry through with you for the rest of your life, because now you see the path that you're supposed to walk. You're not following others, because I think going back to your point that you made earlier, the mindset or the mentality that you grow up with is what you learn from your parents, your friends, your brothers, your sisters, your teachers. All of these people are influencing you subconsciously without you realizing. And I was listening to Dr. Bruce Lipton. He was on London Real. I was listening to an interview of his, and so you know who he is from that face, I can tell. So
he's amazing.
Yeah. Just listening to him talk about the programming from 0 to 7. That to me just struck me as like, wow, like it's so simple, but it's so profound that, of course, when we're born, we have no idea what to do. So we learn from the people that are around us, and who better to learn from than the people you live with every day? But if they're fucked up, you're going to be fucked up. So it's no surprise, you know what I mean? So that's why I think when you get old enough to realize that, it's time to start taking a step back and tweaking your mind and tweaking your personality and tweaking your actions and habits on a day-to-day basis, because everything that you've done up to that point has brought you to where you are. So if you don't like where you are, or you need to tweak something that you've done along the way. So yeah, I mean, going back to one of the videos that you made, I was curious. It was one of the most popular videos on YouTube. You said about you were talking about how to manifest your dreams or manifest what you want in life. Yeah, so I think it was quite a long time ago, but I was watching it recently,
Yeah.
And in one of the things that you said was the universe doesn't know what you want. It feels. It can only feel. Like it feels what you want. Mm-hmm. How did you come up with that insight, and explain to people what that means? Because not everyone will understand that terminology or understand how to resonate with that.
Well, everything is energy, right? Everything is energy. And basic principles of energy is like attracts like, you know? So the best way I can explain it is like, have you ever had one of those days where like shit hits the fan and then shit keeps coming at you and you're like, oh my god, what else could go wrong? And then boom, something else goes wrong?
Yep.
Definitely. That's energy, you know, because you start to shift into a lower vibrational state and you start to attract experiences and conversations and people like that at that low vibe state. So what I mean by that is like the universe or God or whatever you believe in doesn't know what it is that you want, can't hear it verbally, but it can feel it. So if there's something that you want, for example, you know, when I wanted to create Amplified Soul Live, I had a whole daily ritual leading up to the event where every day I sat in meditation and visualized the filled out seats. You know, I visualized the audience. I visualized myself on stage. I visualized the whole thing. And I would let myself feel, you know, so when I'd come out of that visualization exercise, I would actually feel like what I thought I would feel like in the room. And that translated, you know, it helped me create or co-create this incredible event that was even better than my visualizations. So it's more than just creating a vision board. It's more than just writing out what you want. It's more than just speaking what you want. It's like really allowing yourself to dip into the feeling of what it is that you want and feeling as though you already have it. That is so important. So like fast forward to where you want to be 5 years from now. You know, how is that going to feel versus what are you going to have? And then let yourself dip into that feeling every day. Because that is what we chase. As human beings, that's what we chase. That's what we want at the most inner parts of our being is we cherish the feelings, you know. People want money. Why? Because it's going to make them happy. Because it's going to make them feel fulfilled. They don't want money just for the physical aspect of having money in their bank account. They want it because it will evoke, they think it's going to evoke a feeling. So you have to chase the feelings and you have to sit with those feelings in order for it to be communicated at an energetic level to the universe or to God or, again, whatever you believe in.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's a massive thing to realize. I think, in other words, it's called the law of attraction. And there's so many people out there that talk about it these days. But I think the way you described it is probably the simplest way to explain it, because as simple as it sounds, it's just about being clear on what you want. Like, I've realized that myself this year. Like, it's good that you're excited about life and you want to achieve these things. You want to be a millionaire, you want to do this and travel the world. But if you don't know down to the T what it is that it looks like, how can you possibly get there? You don't know when you don't know when you've arrived or when you've achieved it, I should say, because you haven't clarified what it looks like. So that's definitely important, and I hope everyone listening takes that into consideration when they think about where they're going next in their life, whatever decision they may be making. What does it look like for you guys, and how is that going to make you feel? So just to bring it down more to a human aspect, like peeling back the layers of who you are at the moment, tell me a little bit about what you've struggled with along the way. Like, it could be emotionally, it could be with your business. Like, because so many people will see you or see others on a pedestal and think, wow, like, she's got her own events and, you know, she's meeting all these people and, like, yeah, she's making money now. But what actually happened along the way? Because it wasn't always the way it is now. Like, you know, you had to go through your own process and journey, right? So
yeah, so I was one of those unique cases who did everything to harm herself, you know, and that's why self-love was such a pivotal moment. Like, it was such a pivotal moment for me to realize that self-love was at the key of everything. It was everything I did, my entire life was due to how I felt about myself. So I always made the wrong choices. You know, and the earliest I can remember is at the age of 13 I started cutting. And that was in the early 90s when no one talked about this shit. Like, back then, no one talked about depression or anxiety or cutting or anything like that. No one talked about it. It wasn't as, like, glamorized as it is now, And so I didn't even understand. I just felt like this pain feels better than the pain I'm feeling in my heart, And I started taking, at the age of 13, I was taking, like, I don't know, 12 to 15 Advils in a day. That's all I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
But it would at least make me feel better. And then once I got older and I was officially diagnosed with clinical depression, so at the age of 23 or 22, I was really sick for a while, and I was struggling with a lot of physical pain. And they had diagnosed me with clinical depression, fibromyalgia, PTSD, anxiety disorder, and rheumatoid arthritis all at once. And they said, the PTSD is what's making everything really bad. And there were days when I couldn't even get out of bed. Like, you couldn't touch me. I would shriek out in pain because the fibromyalgia was so bad. And so they put me on like 5 different prescriptions at that young age of 22, 23. And of course, like, one of the prescriptions they gave me was for anxiety, and that's a benzo. And benzos are very, just like, for those of you who don't know, like, we talk a lot about opiates, but benzos are also highly, highly addictive and very popular drugs for doctors to recommend for things like anxiety. So I became addicted to my anxiety medication, and no one questioned it. I would go through a bottle in less than a week and get another bottle, and I kept doing that, and no one questioned it. So for me, it was always about numbing my emotions. It felt way better to be numb than it did to feel what I was going through, because I also didn't have a healthy relationship with expressing my emotions. Every time I expressed my emotions when I was younger, I was told to stop crying, or don't cry, or, just smile. And so I had learned that expressing my emotions wasn't healthy or wasn't the right thing to do. And so masking was the only thing. It was the only thing I could think of. And I drank a lot, and then eventually when I started working in nightlife in my late 20s, I discovered recreational drugs, and that became my entire life. And working in nightlife, I was working with some of the biggest, hottest DJs around the world and producing large-scale events and raves. It was a very glamorous lifestyle, but it didn't necessarily mesh with my personality as a sober person. So I had to drink and do drugs to be out at, those hours of night and to talk to that many people and just to be in that situation. Plus, it just made me feel better. So essentially, my entire life I've been struggling with depression and anxiety. And up until, 2013 is when I stopped doing drugs. 2014 is when I stopped drinking altogether. So up until then, I was always coping with drugs and alcohol. So that's, my story and my past. And, I totally left out the part about my relationship cycles. I was in a cycle of very toxic relationships for a long time. But again, like, it all stemmed from self-worth. I just went after what I thought I was worthy of experiencing. I made choices that equated to how I valued myself. So that's why the self-worth piece, I think it's important for everyone. Like, whether you're the president or CEO of a company, or whether you're just like a student going to school, your self-worth is going to affect your ability to create success, your ability to feel fulfilled, your ability to experience true happiness. It's going to affect all of that.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, just hearing that just took me back a little bit, because I didn't expect you to share so much. But thank you for sharing that, because I think everyone listening is going to appreciate that and hopefully make peace and sort of accept their emotions rather than suppressing them, because suppressing emotions only work for so long. Depression is just, depressing your emotion. It's exactly that. Depressing your state and depriving yourself of actually feeling. Like, you get to this, but I haven't experienced that myself, to some extent I have, but not to that extent that you've gone through from what you described. But it's almost like rather than feeling this, I'd rather not feel anything. And that's not healthy, because that's not what you're born to be. You're born to actually feel. Like, we have 5 senses for a reason, and not having one of them, or depriving yourself of some of them just because it helps you feel good in the short term, is not going to be healthy in the long term. For me, just to share a little bit, because I don't know how much the listeners know about what I've discussed in the previous podcast, is few years ago, I think it's about 5 years ago now, I went through like a really tough, unexpected situation at university when I was studying. This was my final year at university studying. So I did a law degree, managed to graduate, but in the final year, when everything counted and all eggs were in one basket, a massive skin disorder came like from top to bottom. Like it just came out of nowhere. Doctors couldn't diagnose it. I was on like 5 different creams. Half of them were steroid creams, taking like antibiotics and steroid tablets, injections, and it was just it's to the point now where I reminisce, it just makes me shudder, because it's like I was literally dead but alive. And the only way that's the only way I can describe it, because I couldn't move my body. That's how sore it was. And when I was sleeping, it was like I was sleeping in a casket almost. Like I had to sleep straight. Like I couldn't move my body. It was that painful. Like all the bends in the joints, I couldn't move them. And so it was, I don't know what pulled me through. It was just visualizing myself graduating and just like, no, I've started this. I've got to finish this. Half of it was just a self-battle. The other half was my parents wanted to see me graduate, because I was the first one in my family to go to university, to do a law degree, to actually complete the degree as well, because so many Asians pursue law, especially in my family, but none of them completed. They all dropped out. They couldn't finish it because it was too difficult. And I said to my parents, when they said, oh my God, we've heard it's difficult, are you going to be okay? Giving me a call every other week saying, oh, how are you getting on? You sure you're okay? You're going to pass? I was like, look, Dad, I said I'm going to start something. I'm going to finish it either way. And so when I was going through this period, the people that you love the most when you're really young, and throughout your life, but when you're young, you need them the most, are your parents. So when something happens, they're the first people you want to share it with, right? And I couldn't tell them, because if I told them, they would have freaked out. And I was about 100 miles away from them at university, so I was living on my own outside. I was living with friends, but it was away from home. So going through that was just traumatic in itself, and I'm still coming out of it now, but that was the worst of it. And it just goes back to visualizing what the end goal is. And at that time, it was like, I'm going to finish this regardless of what it takes. And for me, now that I've come out of it and I'm able to process it a little more and come to peace with it, it was literally, for me, the meaning that I take from it, it was literally peeling away the boy to reveal the man that I was supposed to be, in a literal sense, like shedding the skin. So that's what I definitely feel has happened, because my confidence has soared since that point. And I think everyone has to go through their own rite of passage, almost, quote unquote. We don't have a literal rite of passage anymore, but for you, it was what you described, and it's made you the woman you are today. And for me, that was my defining sort of experience. I think everyone that goes through a bit of pain, they need to realize that the pain is there for a reason. Like, you've now found a meaning behind it, and that's it. When you're explaining the story, I can tell you've come to peace with it and you found purpose in the pain, almost. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a reason for everything, and I think it's a very sad and somber way to live if you believe anything other than that. Like, there's a reason for everything. It may not make sense today, it may not make sense tomorrow, it may not make sense a year from now, but eventually all the dots will connect and it'll make sense.
Yeah, no, for sure, definitely. So now that you've become sort of the character and the individual that you are on social media, what is it that you feed your mind on a day-to-day basis? Like, for someone out there who's just starting out and who wants to do like life coaching, or they're inspired by your story and they want to start sort of living in their purpose, what would you say to them?
To work on themselves first, because whether you want to be a motivational speaker or a coach, or you just want to dive into this world and improve yourself, it all begins with self. So do things daily that amplify your life. Do things daily that add something positive to your life. Do things daily that help you connect deeper to yourself, however that looks for you. Like I think it's kind of bullshit to say, like, here are the things that are going to work for everyone, because it doesn't always work for everyone. Not meditation doesn't work for a lot of people because they're too scatterbrained to even sit down. So maybe for them it's like a walking meditation. Maybe for them it's like working out at the gym. Like for me, working out at the gym is my meditation, it's my visualization. I listen to motivational speeches while I work out. Like I do a lot of things at the gym at the same time.
Yeah, it's the same.
But it works. So like anything that you can possibly do to improve you, to improve your quality of life. So whether that's reading books or listening to podcasts or meditating or working out or eating right, anything that you can do to improve you, because once you start to feel better from the inside out, like physically feel better, then the mentality and the emotional state, all of that starts to follow suit. So take care of the physical vessel, take care of you, and everything, and stay dedicated to it. Number one rule, like stay dedicated and committed. And it will naturally evolve into what it's meant to evolve into.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with that for sure. You need to be consistent with it as well on a day-to-day basis. It's not like you can do it once a month, But what are some? What are some? So working on yourself is good. Like that, I think that's definitely where you should start. Where anyone should start. It's a good place for sure. But what are some examples you can give of the things that you can do, just in case people are like, yeah, that sounds good, but what are you doing? Give me some inspiration. What do you do on a day-to-day?
So I'm a gym rat. I love working out, and so when I go to the gym, I also use that time as my me time, and I pop in my earbuds and I literally listen to motivational speeches from some of the world's greatest speakers, Les Brown, Tony Robbins. Like I listen to those speeches as I work out, because I am a big believer and a big teacher on physiology plus mentality creates shift. So if you are able to change your physical state, but at the same time change your mental state, that creates a shift that will last all day. So for me, that's the way that I wake up every morning, 5 a.m., wake up, go to the gym, do this little ritual with myself, and then I don't start working until about 9:15, 9:30 in the morning. So that's like a solid 4 hours to myself in the morning every day. Which in that time I also spend quality time with my husband, because family is very important, and I think that when people get into this work, it's really easy to outgrow the people that you're with, your friends. So it's important to find the people that can grow with you, because that type of connection, it doesn't even have to be a partner if you're not in a relationship, but surrounding yourself with people that you can have these real discussions with. I mean, that for me was it was so pivotal, because I never really had friends like that. I didn't seek them out, and so once I started consciously seeking them out, now I know like who I can turn to have these types of discussions, because it's so people often forget the value of human connection in day-to-day life. So even if it's reaching out to someone via text or just a phone call and not necessarily in person. And then other things like reading. I love reading books. I will admit, though, I am an awful reader in terms... I don't read every day. I just don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
But I do love books, and I love podcasts, and I love videos. So if I can catch like even one video, if it's like 3 minutes long, from someone that I really look up to, I love doing that too. So there's like a lot of things you can do on the go if you're a busy person.
Yeah.
You just have to find like what works. So those are some of the tools that I use.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thanks for sharing that, because it's definitely helpful for those who are just starting out or who are lost and have no idea, what to turn to first. But I definitely, agree with you when you say, even though you're busy, you can still find the time to do something on the go. And just to give you an example, like when I commute to work, because I'm in sales at the moment, and when I'm commuting, I see so many people playing Candy Crush on the train. I'm like, what are you doing? You have an hour to listen to an audiobook right now. You have an hour to do something to like set your whole day up, 8 a.m. in the morning. and they're just playing Candy Crush. Everyone's on their phone texting, and everyone gets annoyed when you go underground and you lose signal. And go through a tunnel. It's like, come on, guys, use this time to do something. But hey, everyone's going to realize in their own time, right? So, but no. One last question I want to ask, that I ask everyone, that intrigues me deeply, which is what my brand and community is about, is what is the legacy or the message that you want to leave behind? So now that you've done everything you've done so far, it's certainly not the end, but where do you see yourself when you're 90? You're looking back and you're thinking, wow, that was a fulfilled life. Like, what does that mean for you?
It means having dedicated my life to being a catalyst to the new generation of thought leaders. Like, I want to pave the way for hundreds and thousands of thought leaders to rise up and really own their voice. And, it doesn't have to be thought leadership in terms of like becoming the next Tony Robbins. I mean, a thought leader in your industry, because that means that more people are owning their voice and owning who they are. And for me personally, like, I just want, for me, if I feel happy and I feel fulfilled and I have meaning in my life, that's all I need. That's all I need. So looking back, I feel like right now I'm doing things to set myself up to feel that, because like every day I have meaning, every day I feel fulfilled, every day I feel happy, because I'm actively making choices to switch things if I don't. So for me, the legacy I want to leave behind really is like an army of thought leaders. That's what I want to leave behind.
Yeah. No, that's amazing, and you're definitely well on the way to doing that. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to speak, and I'm sure everyone listening is going to take a lot of gems away from this one. I definitely look forward to coming to one of your events the next time you hold one, and thanks again, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem.